What's up, YouTubers? Damn it! There they are again. Open them up. This is not a review. This is a first initial impressions. Thank God, Sawtooth Dave has saved this knife for me. This was going to be a total disaster. I'm going to give some first impressions of the Reate T1000. They're not good, folks. Let's just start with the price. It's $550. Not a huge deal for the materials you're getting, the grinding, the milling, all the hardware that goes into this. You're paying the designer. There's a lot of complexity to this knife. But if I want to go catch mice, and I'm not speaking just in utility terms and so forth, but I want to catch mice, I'm not going to necessarily, if I find one that's equally as good, I'm not going to go spend extra money for that sort of thing. And that's what I kind of felt like on this one, is you're kind of just spending extra money. And get used to this, by the way. We'll start, you know what, I'm going to jump right into this. Sorry, this is an initial first impressions. But this knife works with this is basically a flipper only. I have thumb studs that now work. Oh, no, I already hit the button there. So you have to, once again, go back to there. But it does have thumb studs that work now. Thanks to Sawtooth Dave. So he actually basically made some of these. The studs that came with it, I don't have on it now, but if you kind of take a look at it sitting there, you'll see that they are far short of being able to access. And I tried several times. You just couldn't access them. And let's take a look at these thumb studs now. They do not protrude anymore. Oh, you got to push that in. But they do not protrude anymore beyond the frame. Oops, let's do a better example there. So they fit right perfectly inside the frame. All right, so I have working thumb. Oh, that's right. You got these holes there again, your pins, your secondary pins. So, all right, let's jump into this. You have your primary stop pins right here, and they were not big enough, so I had to swap them out. Otherwise, this knife was a no-go. The ones that came with it, and I'm going to go ahead and link the video below of Sawtooth Dave's. Basically, I won't say take apart, but he basically dissects this knife, and you're going to learn everything you need to know on it. And I had already bought mine. I probably would not have bought this after the fact. It was just so ostentatious. I saw it at the Blade Show videos that everybody had, and I was like, oh my gosh, we know Reate makes things great, but this knife, honestly, let's just talk initial impressions. So it is essentially a flipper only out of the box, but with these thumb studs and stop pins from Sawtooth Dave, again, I'll link them below. You have a chance of resurrecting this knife. For the most part, it was essentially just a flipper only. And what it has is to mimic something more of a fixed blade. Obviously, it's never going to be a fixed blade because it's not fixed. They do build in these secondary stop pins. And let me show where those are going to go into. Those basically fit into a slot right here that when you push them, you can kind of see them start to show up. And whether it's in the open or closed position, you can pop those in, and you'll notice that they fit right into that slot in the tang of the blade, and therefore it essentially makes it more fixed. It's not any more fixed, really, other than the fact that it has these primary stop pins. If those fail, then you do have a secondary set of steel stop pins that go into that tang. So is it better? Sure. But this is a folder. This is not a fixed blade, so it's really annoying. And then what it utilizes is this spring-loaded system that basically rotates these out, these pins out. And so you slide this up here, those pop out. And by the way, one of the first negatives on this one is this one's going to always pinch you. There's no chamfering of any kind. And so when you first hold this knife, you're getting your thumb scraped all the time in between those two. They could have softened that a little bit. I swear nobody used this knife before they sent it to production. They were like, oh, this is really beautiful. And it is. And you know what? RUBE GOLDBERG made some amazing mousetraps and devices, but was not very useful necessarily. So, yeah, that's the first complaint about this one. Well, I've already complained enough about the stop pins and thumb studs. They're now functional, but yet they do not stick out any further than the frame. So that's a great thing. Thank you, Dave. So that was one thing. The next thing, you notice the Band-Aid on my finger. This choil here, I thought, oh, yeah, it's big enough for a full... No, it's not a full finger choil, unless you kind of have smaller hands. Nothing against them, but it's just simply not. We're going to get out and use good old mathematics. The XM24 is about straight across that choil is about 0.74 inches. Let's go ahead and take a look at straight across. Oh, straight across this one is much shorter than that. It might not seem like a lot, but straight across that channel, it's 0.71. I know it might not sound like a lot, but boy, it just cut me. First thing out of the gate, this knife cut me, and I was like, oh, whoops, I guess that's not a full choil, and I was being very careful and all that stuff. So I have medium large hands, it will cut you. That is not a full choil, that's a sharpening choil. So there's that. Going back to the thumb studs, by the way, I did want to go ahead and show these. The XM24, which is a knife for me, is kind of one of my few bruisers, so to speak, flipper, but it does at least have more accessible thumb studs. And they're recessed below, but you still have enough grab on them, and you just have to learn how to clear your hands off of the frame lock, and you can actually thumb stud this open. So that was not a big deal. Let's go on to the next thing. This thing is so ostentatious, just unnecessarily for me, showy, and it's not because I don't like some showy knives. I have some super showy knives, but this one, not so good. The jimping on the top here, this reminds me of, well, let's just go ahead and bring it out. The Cold Steel 8015, designed by Andrew Demko. This was not particularly useful, except possibly with some pretty thick leather gloves. I actually had to individually grind down every one of those jimps, if you will, to make it usable, so that when you weren't wearing gloves, which, come on, how often are people that are just carrying everyday carry stuff wearing gloves? Not always. So it was just uncomfortable. These are not quite as bad as that, but they have that fairly similar, and I was like, oh, I've felt that before. So yeah, for me to make this into usable jimping, for a saber grip versus a hammer, I'm going to have to then go ahead and get ceramic rods and just knock those down the slightest bit. So a third item that just, there you go again, just failed for me. I'm going to address this last one and why it is truly so bad. These stop pins, which are designed to make it more like a fixed blade, are terrible and should never have been put on this knife. Primarily for this one reason. You'll notice they're nice and open, and everything flows freely. But you put it in your pocket, these guaranteed are going to get knocked in, and you're going to be frustrated. Oops, you get stopped there. But the worst of all was just when you use the knife, you set it down, and just the weight of the knife itself, you'll notice, will drop that pin down. You cannot open it. So it's a great protector. So you literally have to train yourself, if you're going to keep with those, to every time you open or close, basically just move your thumb forward so you don't get pinched there. Yeah, I know, he's got little bitch hands, Mitch. And just move it forward, and then you're good to go. You do anything with this knife, you're going to be hitting that, trust me. And, just get in the habit of a second motion. So in that sense, if you really like having to do more things to open your folding knife, it's a great fidgeter. Otherwise, I'm going to talk about a couple of the good things. There I go again. See, it just happened again. I eventually learned to actually open it with my index finger from the backside for any sort of pull cuts. But yeah, just one single day, this is pretty frustrating. This knife, obviously the cost that goes with it has a lot of milling and so forth. Very beautiful, pretty, and that sort of stuff. But it's very RUBE GOLDBERG. For $450, why not save yourself $100 or more and just go with the Reate, the SOCOM Bravo of this great knife. This is kind of their take on the I think it was the Delta was the original one, but this SOCOM Bravo was basically a Chinese manufactured Microtech SOCOM Elite knife with the modern materials and all sorts of milling and so forth. Your milled pocket clip, your carbon fiber, titanium, and that sort of stuff. You know what? Save your money. Go for something like this. For me, the price, there it goes again. The price was just ridiculous for it. All right. Not everything is terrible about this knife. As a bruiser goes, it's extremely comfortable in a medium-large hand. If you want something that has a lot of girth to it, it actually has just all of this milling on the outside, as well as the pocket clip is really good. It forms a nice contour. So if I wanted to hold a knife and I had a folder, this would be really good if I wanted to do something, you know. Yeah, it's very, very comfortable in hand, especially for some sort of heavy duty. They did use 3V steel, which is very tough. They have the beautiful Reate grinding with the compound grind up here on the Tonto flat, and then you have the hollow, or the Tonto front, and then the hollow on your flats here. They've got some really good swedging. You know, is it well made? Yeah. Do the materials justify some higher price? Yeah. But if you're looking for a knife, a bruiser heavy beater knife that's, you know, and you want to save some money, or you want equivalent money, $550, $595. This one is a no-brainer. Just wait, get yourself an XM24. Lots of people are getting those, and it's just one of those things where you're going to be able to get it a lot easier now than you were 2 years ago. So for me, honestly, I don't know that I'm even going to do a full review of this knife. I may carry it for a little while. I do appreciate the thumb stud improvement on it, and I'm very thankful to Dave on that one. So, damn, see, there it goes again. Just train yourself. If you don't mind training yourself, you may like this knife. But otherwise, for me, like I said, this would probably be in my bottom 3 knives of the year for 2023. Take care.